When we talk about this great cloud of witnesses that's all around you, there are two basic groups of people that we're talking about when we talk about this great cloud of witnesses. The very first part we'll talk about tonight, which is, we're talking about those people that have been before you that we can still consider as part of this great cloud that surrounds you. But instead of kind of going through and picking and choosing somebody, we have actually a list that's already been made for us. And it's in Hebrews chapter 11. And what Hebrews does, God kind of lays out a group of people. And in that group of people, we call it the heroes of the faith, or the Hall of Fame of faith. But I also want to show you something else involved with that. Because if I kind of zero in on you for a second, and I were to ask you this question, how do you feel about your own personal walk in faith? In the essence of right here, what I wanted to do is invite one person to come up here first. So Kylie, come up here. Okay, so on this iPad right here, I'm going to ask you a question. If your faith walk was like I'm going to say a scribble, okay? What would it look like? And I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll tell you about mine. Okay, if I started off and said, okay, I accepted Christ when I was 22 years old, and as soon as that happened, I was on fire. I mean, there were some great things happening. So you can see what's happening over here, right? Okay, this is what I'm going to consider my faith walk. Okay, so I know, right? This is awesome. As I lived out this life, there was ups and downs. There were times in my life where I felt like I was really on fire for God, so I was way up here. And other times I was actually being disobedient, so I was like down here. Other times I felt like I was like, maybe we'll do it like a fast track. I was walking real fast. Other times it just seemed like it was just going so very slow. Okay? What would this line for you look like?
So,
talk it out.
Okay, I accepted Christ when I was about 6, and then
Now one line. Let's do one line.
I
Ready?
am.
You got
I am.
it.
And then I was up here.
Okay, so you're up.
And then I go low.
What happened? You went what? So you went low. Did you stay low?
No, it wasn't swirly. It was low.
You went. Oh, so it was like down here, like that. Then what happened? Then what happened?
And then it went about middle.
Okay. What happened there? Where was this?
This is at summer camp.
Summer camp. Yes. Okay.
And then it went back to middle.
Back to middle. Okay.
And then it kind of like went up and down right there.
Okay. So I'm just kind of up and down the middle part. Not. Okay.
And then it went high again. That's low.
Sorry.
And then it went high. And then it's like
right there?
It's in between middle and high.
Okay.
Where is
And then we're right here. So is that it?
I mean, yeah.
All right. So we can call this very good. Everybody clap. We all can identify with what Kyla just described here. Okay, so we have times in our life where we feel like we've done really, really well. There are times in our life where we feel like we're not doing well at all. Sometimes we feel like we're right in tune with God. He tells us we do it. Other times it seems like we are actually deciding to be disobedient. You guys know what I'm talking about? And when you compare it to these heroes of faith, Hebrews chapter 11, there are a couple of people that kind of jump out to me. This first one, looking at verse 8, it says, by faith, Abraham. So Abraham is obviously in this heroes of faith. Or maybe even we imagined Abraham to be right here and said, Abraham, why don't you come up and go ahead and put your faith scribble down? What would it look like? By faith, Abraham got up, left his family, left his hometown, left everything he knew to follow God almost blindly. Whatever God was doing at the moment, Abraham's like, I'm just going to go where God tells me. That takes amazing, courageous faith to do that. And we say, well, no wonder he's in Hebrews chapter 11. He's part of this heroes of faith. But we also know that there are other parts in Abraham's life. Parts where, if you guys remember, he actually told Pharaoh that his wife was his sister. That was something that Abraham probably should not have done, right? There's other things we've seen Abraham do. Why would Abraham be listed in this heroes of faith if this is what his faith walk looked like. Let me point out some other people. What do we see here? Next one, verse 11. By faith, Sara herself was barren, and she was enabled to become to bear a child, which is, there were some great things. But we also look at Sarah, and what did Sarah do? She laughed in the face of God because God was saying something that she really didn't think would happen. So if I was Sarah, you could say the very same thing about her life. Do you ever suppose that when you're looking at your own life that you're thinking, God, I don't even know how you can even do anything with my life. I've made a mess of it. Let me do something, and I'm going to combine all these things. When God's looking at everybody's faith walk, from this cloud of witnesses that we have all around, all the witnesses in the past, from Abraham on to us, God's looking down and he sees this. Let me give you some encouragement here. Your faith walk is just like everybody else. So this great cloud of witnesses that we talk about, this is it right here. Are you guys encouraged? Okay. There's a part of you that goes, well, at least I'm not like everybody. At least I'm just along with everybody else. That's fine. But really, this is the mess. But here's what happens in Hebrews chapter 11. Because as God is pointing out these people, there's a part, and I want to take you to verse 32. The writer says in 32, says, what more shall I say? So he's listing out all these people: Noah, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses. What's that? Rahab. Rahab. So he says, what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell you about some more people: Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets, who, through faith, conquered kingdoms, administered justice, shut the mouth of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, escaped the edge of the sword, weakness turned to strength, routed foreign armies, women received back their dead. We see people being healed. When we step out in confidence in faith, what God has us do, we want to be able to say at the end of it, we're going to conquer lions, and we're going to administer justice. We are going to shut the mouths of lions and quench the fury of the flames. There's another list that I want you guys you have to be aware of here. There's dark moments. People who step out in faith, look at me, you can't miss this. We don't think it should be this way, but look what happens. Look at verse 35. Others were tortured. They refused to be released. 36. Some faced jeers, floggings, while others were chained, put in prison. Some were stoned. Some were sawn in two. Do you guys see this list here? Look, it's right here. It's Hebrews chapter 11. They were put to death by the sword. They went about in sheepskins, goatskins. They were destitute. They were persecuted. They were mistreated. Look at it this way. Verse 38. They wandered in deserts, mountains, and in caves, and holes in the ground. It's kind of weird, don't you think? People that step out in faith, do things. Like I said, you want to be able to say, hey, okay, I'm going to be obedient, and at the end of the race here, it's going to be victory. But right here in Scripture, there are times where we don't see a victory. It's actually kind of a darkness. How can this work out like this? It's because God's still working. Look at verse 39. We're talking about people here. So what he's doing, he's saying all of these people that we've just talked about in Hebrews chapter 11, all these people were commended for their faith. What does that mean to be commended? These people who had good circumstances, these people who had bad circumstances, they were all commended. That means that they had some kind of witness. Remember, because we're talking about this great cloud of witnesses. So they all had this witness because they were all of them, either in good times or in bad times. The ones that were destitute, the ones that were in chains, the ones that were sawn in two. All of these people were commended for their faith because they were living in a hope. Their witness was a courageous faith. And it also says they did not receive what had been promised. Why? Look, sometimes you're going to be victorious. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to see life. Sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to be spared, and other times you're not. What is the guiding principle? What is the thing that all these people had? They were all looking forward to a promise that was beyond them. Verse 40 is the key point right here. What's it say? God had planned something better. What is something better that they're talking about? The promise, as God is working in your life, the lives of the people that are all around you, He's taking those intersecting points, and what He wants to produce is something that's better. He is working in your life right now to produce the promise. It is not up to you. It is not your faith that produces anything. It is God working through you that produces what He wants. So you may think that you've got a mess on your hands. Guess what? God can work. No, not God can work. God is working through the scribbles that you have. And they're connecting together with other people's scribbles. And God is working His plan forward through you. Now, we all want to strive for excellence. I'm not trying to take that away. God has been working through the lives of a lot of people. And some of them have made horrible mistakes. More horrible than you will ever do in your own life. But God is still working through those people. They are still being commended, not because of what they did, it's because of what God did through them. So the encouragement to you as we look at this idea of this history, you are amongst a great cloud of witnesses that God has been working through. And He's doing, His goal is to bring out a Christ-likeness in you. Always think about this. God's working. Does it seem like it? Maybe not. But is God working? Yes, He's always working. And that's a great thing. That's an awesome thing.